Hi, everyone. This is November 4th, Tuesday, November 4th, 2025. It's the Community Preservation Committee meeting. And I guess we'll do a roll call. I know Burton is not coming, but we do have Nancy.
Nancy Nelson, Historical Commission appointee.
And Bill.
Bill Kameza, Natural Resources.
And Ed.
Ed Larner, Housing Authority and Housing Representative.
And Diane, who's on mute.
Diane Proctor, Select Board appointee.
Thank you. And Jeff.
Jeff Collins, Select Board appointee.
And Andrew.
Andrew Boardman, Planning Board appointee.
And Matt, who's also on mute.
Matt Bower, Concord Recreation. Thanks.
Great. And I, Eve Eisenberg, Select Board appointee. Full house. Thank you guys for coming. This is great. We have a full agenda, and just because I really love to check, I'm a list checker and I like to check things off lists. I would really love, before we even get started, to move the minutes up to the very first thing so we could say we did something tonight. If no one else has an objection to that, I would love to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from August 12th and September 16th. Diane?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thanks, Bill. I guess we have to do a roll call vote for all those in favor of approving the minutes from August 12th and September 16th. Nancy?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Diane?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Andrew?
Yes.
Matt?
Me, yes.
And I am yes too. Look at that. We accomplished something, people. Woohoo!
Good.
One
One
thing
down.
One down, exactly. Okay. We have on our agenda the extension request. Does everybody know what this is? This is actually, it was actually in the minutes. If you managed to read the minutes, you would be updated on the extension request. And do you want to put that up on the screen if you have it? Or Heather, who's in charge? I don't even know.
Yeah, sure. I can put it up. Just give
Okay.
me a couple of minutes.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So we're just taking another look at this to refresh people's memory about, because it was so long ago, it was months ago, and so much has happened, to remember what Delia was asking for, because it's part of the big picture. You guys, we have two things we're doing at the same time. We're going to be managing a big picture of funding requests and funding opportunities. And then we're also going to be managing a application by application review, looking at each application in its own right and on its own merits for CPC funds. So we're doing two things at the same time. So this is part of the bigger picture. And I know Anne's got a lot to do, but I think it was 264 out of the 490. Actually, I have it right here in front of me as well. What am I doing? You can also put a pin in the extension request too, because it is part of a bigger picture.
But this is money that's already out there. So this doesn't affect our current concern about trying to meet what we have. This is money that's
it may do, Bill. It may do.
Yeah, it may do, actually.
Yeah. So, okay, thank you for those numbers. That's perfect. Okay. So down here at the bottom of this, it says the extension request for a portion of CPA project 619 for 264 for the boat launch improvements. That is something that is not an application technically, but it is something that we will need to vote upon, and our vote, whether we approve that extension request, does affect how much funding we have at the end of the day to allocate to different projects. So let's keep that in mind. And Ann and I thought it was just a good idea to bring that up since it's not one of the applications, to keep that in mind as part of the big picture of our funding. And I know you all got an email from Ann explaining what our funding is, our funding opportunity is. Does that make sense? Okay, great. All right. Ann, did I catch everything that we talked about, or do you want to add anything about that?
No, I think that's it.
I,
Right,
I
so there's, the request is for 264, but the full amount for that project was just a little bit less than the 500,000. It's like 498 something, and I had sent that in the email.
Right. Right.
I'm sorry, 264 or 220?
well, I had a question. I asked a question about
260.
that. I believe back when this was brought up. Do
Yes,
we
you did,
need?
Andrew.
It's 264.
It's 264 because there is a inflation number in there of
Right.
of 20% of $44,000 added to the 220.
Right. So I had a question about that.
Yes,
Um,
Andrew.
whether we would actually need to revote that at town meeting because it's increasing the original authorization for that part of the project, where you're basically they're not applying properly. They're adding money to a project. It basically said, hey, this part of the project was 220, this other part was going to be the 280, and we're reallocating it internally.
That's true, to the $44,000.
The 44,000. And I just didn't know if that actually is a different conversation that needs to be done with a town meeting authorization, or if it's because it's reallocated internally, is that okay? And then I had a question about precedent as well about that, of whether it then incentivizes people overselling projects they can't deliver, so then they can reallocate the money, shift the money around themselves. This is a 3-part project. Oh, it turns out the one part was really expensive, so we're just going to not do those, but we're already authorized, so it's fine.
I
And that was just
understand
a
what you're
question I
saying.
had.
Well, it doesn't
about-
quite, that isn't quite the way it happened though, Andrew, to be honest. Part of that money was always thought of as being used for the boat launch.
No. But the boat
Yeah.
launch portion was 240. I understand.
Yeah,
But then,
yeah.
then within the application, it said this part is 240, this other part is
Correct.
dredging.
Right.
So now they're saying they would like a contingency, a 20% bump
That's
for the
true.
boat
That's-
launch
That's true.
out of that dredging money. And that's just the question I was
Oh,
having.
okay. Then, yeah, I completely get that. That makes a lot of sense to
And
me.
Andrew,
Yeah.
I think that one of our options is to vote to extend the request by 220, which is the
Yeah,
which
that's
was
just-
the
yeah.
original amount. That's something that we could do.
Yeah.
But this is just Ann and I were just talking about how it's not really on the spreadsheet so much, so we just wanted to call it out as something that we should be aware of. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
our main focus today is to take a look at these
Uh,
6. Go ahead.
it-
Yes, I'm sorry.
So if we then take 220, let's say we do that, out of the 500,000, and we see what's left, that money plus the 2 original dredging gifts or efforts can all be folded into an opportunity for us to discuss recreation, right?
That's right.
Okay.
But those projects aren't out of time yet. So
Well,
they could
I
be
mean,
given
sure.
back since the dredging's
Oh,
not going forward, but
Well-
I don't think they have to be, right?
Well,
Oh,
actually, Andrew,
one of them is. I'm
Two
Well,
of
sorry.
that's
them.
this one though, right?
2 of them are overdue.
Okay.
2 of the 3 are overdue, if that
So-
answers your question.
If I can ask this question, looking at the email from Ann, you have the area where it says the possibility of the NRC project funds to be returned, and you have a total of $487,299. Now, I think what Andrew is suggesting is that might be increased by as much as, what was it, $40,000 that we wouldn't extend
44.
44,000. So now we're about $512,000, whatever, over $500,000 that we could add into our budget for this year. Am I seeing this correctly?
That's correct. If we choose not to vote positively for the funding request for the entire 264 amount, then that is true.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. That seems pretty good. It seems
Yeah,
pretty
so-
reasonable.
Yeah, okay. Any more? Are these other questions about the funding request extension? Okay, Ed.
Thinking back to what Burton said last meeting, I believe he talked about we could claw back the money that has not been used, but he didn't really think that that was the appropriate way to go about it. And maybe talking to Delia was supposed to be the solution to how much money they may be willing to release, rather than, forcing them to return expired projects.
Well, actually, Ed, in fact, if the money that we grant is not spent within the 30-month time period on the grant, then we do have the right to request a refund of the unspent money, which is why we're talking about how there's at least there's one application that's not overdue, but there are two that are beyond their 30-month timeline. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, but I think he was trying to say it'd be more polite to go
Yeah,
to
well,
Delia without saying we're going to claw back this money. So.
Part of being polite is not saying claw back anymore. That's why I'm
Okay,
specifically trying to say refund and not claw back. Okay. Anyway, yes, Diane?
I think the refunds of those two overdue grants will meet a lot of concerns that people have in the town about the fact that a lot of money was turned over to dredging, which isn't happening. And it would give us the requisite money to begin to discuss Delia's other grant and other concerns that we have. So I hope we can get that on our books when we go forward. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's my hope too. Jeff?
Yeah, concurring with Diane's comments, and in this discussion with Delia, yeah, I think a good faith effort to move expeditiously, since, as the letter says, those elements of the project won't be going forward. It naturally follows the funds would be transferred, and we don't have to wait out a clock or have a complex discussion. It seems like we're in a position to make that happen sooner. Thank you.
Yes, yes. And I'm hoping to discuss all of the recreation and open space applications next. I just figured there was going to be a lot more conversation about those because some of them are contentious. And so I was hoping to start in the great form of our great former leader, Burton Flint, last year with the easy stuff. So that's why I put
Really?
the historic preservation things on the first agenda item. But we'll definitely be talking about the conservation fund and returning funds from the dredging and what that means for Delia next time, unless we get through this so fast that we can just move on. But anyway, yeah, Bill?
Well, I just want to say, who's been very deeply involved in the Warner's Pond, everyone expects the approximately $500,000 will be returned. You're not going to find any problem from Delia on that. From the newly being formed committee, they're expecting that. They're still hoping for money towards the Commonwealth Avenue, which is already in there. There's no worry about that. And there still is about $170,000 for an active management of the plan, which is still outstanding. That's it. So the rest of the money does get returned without any concern, I think, from Delia, from my understanding, being on natural resources and on the Warner's Pond task force. So I think that's going to be a non-brainer for us going forward.
That's great, Bill. And I really appreciate your inputting from those committees and all the work. And thank you for all the volunteer work you're doing. That's a pretty colossal amount of volunteering. Paul?
Yeah, just I think you said this, but I just want to clarify. If there's money in a dredging project per se, that dredging project is not going to proceed. So CPC has the option of returning that money. That happens at town meeting. That money is not available for this cycle. That return money.
Well, Paul, did you talk to Mary about that? Because in our August meeting and in our minutes that are in the part of the meeting documents, she called out the fact that we could get money returned to our funds and assign them to something like a conservation fund for Delia in this round.
Yeah, it's just an order of time.
That means in previous cycles, for example, when the Christopher Heights project did not return, that money was put in a reserve account, but that had to occur at a town meeting through a.
It was. My recollection was it was determined at the time that process that was followed there was more complicated than it needed to be.
That's
Okay.
exactly right, Andrew. We thought it was going to be necessary. I was the chair then, so I remember this in
Okay.
detail. We went through an elaborate, we're moving some money here, we're moving some money there, and then we get permission for that, and then we go forward. And we were informed by both by Stuart Saganor and by our own lawyer that we didn't have to go through that, Paul, that money can be moved over. So
Right, but so those projects would have to be canceled, taken off the books, right? The existing dredging projects.
yeah, but they could then that money then can be added to our coffers for consideration this round.
Okay,
Yes,
Thank
Paul,
you.
we've been very careful about that over the
Uh,
past couple of months because that
yeah,
question
yeah,
came
I'm
up.
so-
Yeah.
I'm sorry to red herring. Proceed, please.
No, no problem. Okay. Okay, great. So I feel like that's been thoroughly discussed. Let's move forward. Okay. We have the Concord Reformatory and West Concord Thematic Preservation Survey, which Andrew, I think you reviewed, and that was presented to us by Anne. And I'm just going to say here that Anne's presentation involved surveying some of the buildings on the MCI site. And as I have mentioned multiple times, my office is working on re-envisioning the MCI site. So perhaps to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest, I will stand down and not discuss this at all. But I would love for the rest of you to discuss. Is that fair?
Well, Eve, what you have to do is turn the chairmanship on this one over to me, and then you have to go dark.
Well, that's what I was just about to do.
Oh, okay, terrific. All right. So we have TM 2609, the Concord Reformatory, West Concord, and Thematic Preservation Survey. The request for funds is, I had it right up here, and now I've lost it because I moved things around to find Delia's request. Does anybody have it right at their?
It's $100,000.
Thank you, $100,000. May I hear some discussion of that particular project?
I'll lead off,
Thank
if you
you,
don't
Bill.
mind. I honestly, as much as I would like to do this, it seems like it's not elaborate. It's not been elaborated as to how that money would be spent. It seems like I think for this, given that money is so tight, and looking at past surveys that have been done, I think we could easily make it 50,000, and they could make a huge head start instead of giving the whole 100. That's just my top of the.
So to
my
jumpstart it, you're
Yeah.
suggesting $50,000 to get them started. Are
Yeah.
there other perspectives on this particular project?
I mean, for me, we asked if we would go through the list of whether we thought some things were automatic and others were questionable. So this is one I put on automatic. So
Yeah, well, so there's a pro and there's a caution. Jeff.
As a new member, could someone help elucidate past conversations on what I took from town council's memo that funds can't be granted for speculative actions, like we're going to conduct a survey that may result someday in some conservation, and then the question of whether historic preservation must relate to structures versus, as I understood this thematic survey, was more the human history, the industry and life and times of West Concord. Is that
an appropriate project?
And the town council, I don't have in front of me, but did sort of ultimately gauge all of these as eligible. But how have you gauged a survey versus an active restoration project?
Good question, Jeff. Anne, you're online. I know this is your project, but could you address any of these questions in a technical way for us?
Sure. Let's see. So, preservation surveys are the fundamental blocks of preservation. Without having these studies, you really cannot assess what you have and what's worth preserving, just as open space and recreation plans also identify what your high priority resources are. And without that, where do you focus, right? So there's been preliminary studies in the past. So these aren't identifying, so they're already identified as important. And this just helps prioritize which ones are most important and which ones have that very close tie to MCI Concord, which of course is the primary focus of this whole community for the next dozen years.
Could you explain what things are? You say the things that are this and the things that are that. Could you anchor those in nouns?
Things that are what?
I mean, you said that there are things that are one thing and there are things that are another. Do you mean houses? Do you mean properties? Do you mean?
I do mean, I mean, we're talking about cultural landscapes. So it's not necessarily strictly structures, but also the land around them. So for example, the superintendent's house, it's not just the house, but the cultural landscape that surrounds it. So the historic fountain, the plantings, they're all tied in together. And so when these surveys were done in the past, they were very focused on just the building and not the landscape around it. And so this, preservation has evolved in the last 30 years or 40 years since these preservation surveys were first done. And so this would be taking the new modern approach to surveying and really looking at in a comprehensive way.
Could you give another example? That's a wonderful example, Anne. Can you give another tangible example?
Yes, so we're looking at whole neighborhoods, not just individual structures. And, entire neighborhoods were built by speculators who also owned industries and who also, didn't employ, they utilized prison labor within the walls of the prison. So all of these stories are intertwined, and the preservation survey would identify those connections and help prioritize which buildings and which landscapes would be should be in some sort of district, whether that's a village center district, which we have in West Concord, or a local historic district, which may not happen, or a National Register district. And all of these are, real solid preservation tools for preserving physical entities.
Thank you very much. Would that include houses perhaps across from the prison? From the former prison?
That one?
Yes, it could.
Okay, I don't just mean the
Cummings House.
Yes, I don't just mean that one, but all the village that surrounded it that housed so many of the people that worked in the prison originally. You're thinking of that as a neighborhood, right? As I understood it?
Right, like the white ladies, right?
Right,
There's
exactly.
only one left. But then there are also privately owned homes too that are that were associated with the prison.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Bill, does that? Bill,
No,
go
I have a
ahead.
question, Ann, and you may be able to answer this. Where did the 100,000 come from? And how'd you come to that figure? I mean, I can see your need for a survey, but why 100,000? Why not 50,000? I mean, where did you find this to use this figure?
Right. Well, these are done in large cities throughout the country and by the National Park Service too. The thought was that this is an interdisciplinary team. It's not a typical survey. It's a very broad area, or very large area. And it would need like a cultural historian, an architectural historian, and perhaps a landscape historian. And again, we're keeping it broad because we do know that, the needs are great here. And as I mentioned during the presentation, we don't know specifically what DCAM is working on right now and how much work would be needed even on, the state-owned properties like the superintendent's house itself.
Bill, does that address your concern or question?
I'm still concerned, but I understand. If it, that's fine. Sure, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other questions that we have?
Is,
Oh, Nancy, go ahead.
just very simply, Anne, I think you mentioned this a little bit. Is DCAM doing anything in this area at all?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't really say. There's a confidential RFP that I saw. But I haven't really been involved in what they're doing, so I don't know, and I don't
That
think
was an
anyone
innocent
knows
question.
what's happening.
Yeah, right.
Right, so
Was.
maybe there will be gaps, maybe there won't, right? If there are gaps, we would need some money to fill those gaps.
Yeah.
So Nancy, given that question and given the kind of questions that Bill and others except Ed have suggested and that Jeff has suggested, it strikes me that this is one we should put on hold till we see how much money we have, until we see until we get a little bit more clarification about DCAM's engagement and what they're doing in terms of involvement, in terms of historic preservation. Am I reading the team correctly? Yes or no? Just raise your hand if you think yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Generally.
Okay, so I think we'll put this one on hold for right now, and then we'll ask Eve to come back in. Anne, could you send Eve an email and say, join us back again?
I was just on the other side of the couch.
Oh, okay. Hi, Eve.
All right. Here I am. Okay, so we may take these out of order, but I think next up is going to be the Free Public Library Storm Window Installation Project, which had Burton, who's not here, and Nancy on it. And I would love to hear the impressions from my committee mates on that presentation and application. Anybody have any comments on that one? Because I have to say that personally, I really love it, and I'm ready to vote on this one.
Yeah.
We talked about no-brainers. This one feels like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay,
I move
so
that we accept this particular proposal and move forward in the fullness of its application.
excellent. Okay,
Just a quick
is that a
question for me.
motion?
Sorry about this. So
Sorry.
I'm trying to figure out, so how, we're doing with the pot of money that we have, knowing that there's some larger expenditures, how are we dividing it? I'm trying to figure out if we're starting with the low and adding it up opposed to the higher ones coming down. How are we intellectually doing this with the money that we've got?
Right. Okay, good question, Matt. And I am prepared for that question. Yes, we simultaneously need to look at each of these applications on their individual merit. And we may vote to support the application, to fund it fully, to put it on hold. But at the same time, we need to be looking at the very big picture of how much we've got and what buckets we need to empty in the case of the designated reserves for historic preservation and for open space, or our budgetary reserve, and then the buckets that we need to fill. Like, there's a lot of moving parts on the funding. And I have behind my Zoom screen here a chart to show you all what a couple of scenarios might look like to fund various applications to certain levels. But it did seem to me that these 6 historic preservation applications could be evaluated on their individual merits, because we might find, and here's some foreshadowing, that some of them really don't fit for CPA funds. And if we could get some of this, just little applications kind of out of the way, I'm happy to pull up, to share my screen and show you all this larger chart of various scenarios that I've sort of worked through, which is not to say that I'm saying how we're going to be spending our money, but I mean, we have to look at the big picture too. Does that answer your question? Big picture, small picture, at the same time. And as whoever just said that the Windows was a no-brainer, that was a no-brainer for me too. And with,
Me too.
$3.4 million, I think we can afford some Windows.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Eve,
Okay.
I would just wonder, rather than just take a vote, just have a positive column without having a final vote yet.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
who knows,
So,
we may have
that's
to come
smart.
back and
No.
make some changes that we don't want to
Yeah.
have to reverse in
No,
a,
this is not final.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is not final. That's
Okay.
right.
Okay.
So instead of taking a roll call vote, which would, be
So
a
that's something, right.
minute-worthy
Right.
final assessment, let's just raise our hands and see who supports the Windows. Me. All right.
Yes, but
Sense of the
again,
meeting.
let's
Andrew
move it
has
into the positive column.
yes,
without-
Andrew has.
without-
It's a hand raising.
Oh, Andrew's okay. All right.
Well, it's a
Thank you,
positive
Ann.
column, but it's not written in stone yet.
Yeah.
So the-
not-
Okay.
So the first one is in the maybe column, and this one is in the positive column.
That's
Right?
that's
Okay.
correct. That's
Okay,
All right.
okay, so far.
We're going to take baby steps then.
Yeah.
Then.
A great
let's move-
movie, incidentally, if you haven't seen it.
Oh, right. Let's
Um,
move quickly to the Scout House, because I would love to hear what you would all think. I know what Burton is going to say, so I can speak for Burton, I think, who's going to say that paint is maintenance and that's the end of that. But does anybody else have anything to say, especially you, Nancy? What do you think?
Routine painting is maintenance. If you are doing painting in conjunction with an assessment and a look towards repairing rotted wood in certain places or replacing different elements of the project, like the 51 Walden, that question came up. And I think in the end, we decided it was not just routine painting.
Right.
So the pictures that were shown as part of the application seemed to me to speak more plainly to the bigger issues than when we were on the site visit. So
That's astute, yes. And I, because as I want to do, was poking my pen into
Yeah.
the unpainted surfaces looking for punky wood, and I did not see any repair that was needed on the trim and the windows or anything that I could reach. There was definitely a hole from a woodpecker, which I recommend somebody put some auto body putty in or something just to hold it off as a Band-Aid until they can get to really repairing that clapboard. But
and there's more deterioration of paint and maybe even the wood on the backside, or maybe it was the side, and it was
the
very
rear, yeah.
shady. It was very shady.
Yeah,
And
Diane.
the
Oh,
door
I'm
was
sorry, Nancy.
terrible.
So I
That's
was
it.
thinking we might give a portion of their application some money. Not the entirety, but to give I think the application is for, again,
20,000.
what?
20,000.
Right? I was thinking we might give 5,000, anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, depending on what our aggregate, to do repair to the surfaces, to do repair to the woodpecker. This is a facility that is used often by people in Concord. I mean, it's a community facility. And I think the degree to which we can help to preserve its quality is not imprudent. I don't think it's appropriate for us to give all the money, but perhaps a small portion, whether it's between $5,000 and $10,000. I think that makes some sense, but I'd love to hear alternative perspectives.
Thank you for that, Diana. I'm just going to have to be a hard ass here and note that the work description is to scrap all loose paint. That means to scrape. I think it's a typo. Power washing with special bleach to remove mildew, caulking all gaps, primer, and then finish coats. There's nothing in the application in the
About
work
repair.
order that's for wood repair, not
Okay.
even for the hole on the
In
on
the
on
side of the house.
Okay, Andrew?
Yeah, I had the same perspective actually calling out the project summary. Didn't mention preservation, other than to use the word preservation. It talks about cleaning and painting the historic building's exterior, including the doors and trim. And it's just a repainting job.
Yeah.
And my understanding is you're not supposed to cover that.
Not routine.
Right. And this is nothing that houses get woodpecker holes. It doesn't create a catastrophic preservation issue. You just patch the hole. Then that's part of maintenance.
But we love the Scout House, don't we, Andrew? We love that
I mean,
building.
it's a
We
resource.
love it.
It's a great thing. I mean, my only thought was it's a shame the cupola's not failing, and then you could fund, but it's
Yeah, exactly.
the exterior is in good shape.
Yeah.
Mostly.
And mostly, obviously.
Maybe if
but
we
it's-
wait another year, we'll deteriorate some more so that then we can call it partial.
That's actually what
You know,
Burton told Andy.
that's the balance here, but
Yeah.
mostly I would mostly agree with that.
Jeff?
Yeah, still going to claim the newbie hat, but I guess I'm worried it could be a perverse outcome of the legislation language, but the idea that we can't support kind of a stitch in time saves 9 or whatever, that we're using short money to preserve the exterior of the wood. To maybe preserve is the wrong verb there in this setting, but to protect the exterior from degradation versus waiting for further degradation. We all hope that the Scout House will go ahead and do the right thing by the building, but it seems to put our role in a funny position if we can't support small, inexpensive patches before they become big problems. So I hear again that maintenance is not permissible. This does sound like maintenance, and yet the legal memo defines preservation. Others can quote this, I'm sure, as protection of personal or real property from injury, harm, or destruction. So I guess a coat of paint isn't going to protect it from destruction, but where fresh coat of paint prevents further degradation of the wood, which
Right.
then
That's exactly right, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
was
remember-
actually super surprised to learn that paint was maintenance. And the first time we went around this with the Robbins house, and then again with the Concord players, and every time it comes up that paint is maintenance, I have to remind myself that I didn't make that rule, you know? But
Yeah.
Nancy, maybe, can you answer Jeff, Nancy? You know a lot more about this than I do.
Well, which question?
About
Is
painting
it preservation ineligible, or is it maintenance, routine maintenance?
Exactly.
I think that depends a lot more or somewhat more on the degree of failure you see in the paint in the building. Like I said, the pictures to me showed a more serious condition than I observed on the site visit, except for on that one side where the door and the sill
The
and
north side.
other things were also, and the cloud, were definitely needing repair in addition to just paint. Like preventative maintenance is something that you want to do when you're dealing with a valuable resource. And I don't exactly know where preventative maintenance comes into play here. I'm trying to remember where I saw that regular maintenance was not eligible, but to Jeff's point, I think the town council came down.
When we dealt with the old manse, Nancy, do you remember there was questions with the old manse? We looked at questions about the degree which, because it was preservation of the exterior. Do you remember that discussion?
I remember a whole lot about the old man's question.
Right.
The project, but
And so-
not something as simple
And
as.
and this particular issue came up again, it came up there,
Yeah.
quite a bit, so.
Yeah,
Nancy, did you have your own point that I just kind of glossed over? You had your hand up?
no.
Oh,
I
okay.
I still have it up. No, I didn't mean to.
So we've just
Jeff?
thought if
Yeah.
if it's defined out, I don't think we could pursue what Diane proposed of saying we're only going to give you 5 or 10. If it's out, it's out, right?
Well, I would like to invite the Scout House to take a close, hard look at some things like that. I noticed like the glazing on the windows and the shutters and some of the detail around the door, which is totally gummed up with old paint. And to come back to us next year with a new application that involves some real restoration and historic preservation and may include paint too at that point. By that time, the woodpecker hole might be a little bit bigger.
Paint is really important,
Not
though.
even funny, sorry. But yeah, but I mean, I think that there could be work done, but I guess Burton's point was that 20,000 is not a whole lot, but apparently the library likes these painters as well. And if you read the exact work order of what he's doing, it really is just a couple coats of paint and some caulk. It's not anything else. And I think other things could be done to help the Scout House into the future. In fact, I think, you know, in my professional opinion as an architect, another year with the coat of paint that they've got is going to be okay for them. And they could come back next year and ask for some money for a bigger rehab of the exterior. Does that make sense?
$20,000 even to paint that whole thing seems to me like a bargain.
It
So,
does.
yeah, I kind of wondered about that too.
Ed?
Okay, next year.
Yeah. I agree with Nancy that it is a bargain, and I know with the Playhouse players, we asked the same thing, whether they could paint that whole building with the amount, and they must have gotten a good painter, and hopefully the Scout House does the same. The other question was about clapboards or the siding. It does mention siding several times, so I think that it could be maybe what Jeff was suggesting, $5,000 just to fix the siding. You know, that this is a little bit more permanent than you know, just scraping for the paint work. So that's it.
I just want to point out, Ed, that it wasn't just paint that paid for the Concord Players, that they had an air conditioning system that needed rerouting, and they had other repairs to the building. It wasn't just a
Thank
paint
you.
job there.
Yeah.
But
I remember
anyway,
we talked a lot about the painting when we did it.
we did, and it was borderline then too, about whether there was enough other stuff to warrant painting as well. But while the application from the Scout House talks about the siding, the actual work order that has the numbers on it that are added up to be the number on the front cover of the application, those numbers are in the application on the work order, and the work listed on the work order is just paint.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I
Bill.
just remembered that you know, that hole in the wall from the.
Yeah, there
bird.
is a woodpecker, it's
Yeah.
true.
Why don't we just put this on hold along
Yeah.
with the survey
Yeah, I
and
was
then come
gonna
back
say.
to it later and see where we are.
We can
You
put
know,
it on
maybe,
hold.
Maybe we'll be, you know, wealthy and we'll think differently about whether it's maintenance or whether it's
Well, that's-
preservation.
Yeah,
But
but
let's just put
Bill-
it aside in the same way
but-
we put aside the survey for now.
We
and
can
move
put
on.
it aside and vote later on it, but
Yeah.
it's definitely not maybe paint. It's definitely just a paint job, which is definitely maintenance. It's not, there's no wiggle room there. And if they gave us a work order that had a siding repair and, you know, clapboard
Bells.
repair, it would be
Oh.
different. But it's pretty clear to me that this is I mean, maybe we could wait for Burton to get here too, because he has more legalese if that's helpful for people. I don't mean that in the pejorative way at all. He actually just knows the law better than me. But anyway, go ahead, Matt.
Great, thanks. I just wanted to reiterate, Eva, I think you've got the right route. I think that if we start allowing painting, that could open up a very large spectrum of people of applications. And I also wanted $20,000 is still a lot of money in the spectrum of spending money. So even though it's short numbered things, it all does add up. So opposed to just like that short dollars, let's just agree with that. I think we need to be very vigilant on how we allocate these funds in creating a precedent because, and again, it's nothing against the Scout House. I learned to dance there. It means a lot, but
Hey,
with direction,
you can dance?
I can, well, the sixth
he wants
grade
to.
dance class with direction and maybe encouragement and say, this was a great option. Maybe think of a bigger application project opposed to such a narrow one. But I mean, we can come back to it, but if the law says no painting, then let's just move on that. Thanks.
Okay.
It says routine maintenance, I think.
Yeah.
Bears looking at.
Okay, Diane?
Yeah, I agree, Matt, and the other, and I've heard Burton on this question quite strongly. We have in the past, even we felt that a project was not as clearly delineated as it might be. Ask them to come back and refine it. We have some time.
Yes,
And
we could do
if
that.
if they can make an argument for and a sincere, I mean, authentic argument, not let's go pretend. But if they can give us an authentic presentation of why it is more than just painting, then then we could in fact review that change. In terms of the application, we've done that before. Nancy and I crawled all over Wright Tavern in years ago to try to help them to adjust their application because they were a little confused about how you do that and what you do. And for Rick, this could be the same thing. I don't know that for sure. I'm inclined to go the way Matt is going, but I want to remind us that we have some history of helping projects, and you know, we're not just
I appreciate that, Diane. And
authoritarians.
Andy was kind of astonished when Burton was telling him that we actually wait till the building is much worse off before we, because of paint being maintenance. And my only concern there is that they already have a super low application for the painting alone. And to ask them to come up with a greater work order so that then they would be, you know, getting partially painted and partially wood repair of some kind. It's just not going to be a whole lot of money to do everything that they want to do.
Gotcha.
And they don't want to like just paint maybe they do, who am I to say, but if I were them, I would not want to just paint the back of the house. You know what I mean? I would want to paint the whole structure and keep the paint schedule going with, so, you know, with the rest. Plus then we're stuck trying to figure out if what we funded is partially a wooden repair and partially paint, but the rest of the house was painted with different money, you know? It makes it really
That's
super
fair.
complicated. If they could increase the amount that they were asking for, it would be different, but I don't think we allow that either, right?
No, no, they can't increase the amount of money they're asking for, but they can refine their application. Yeah, Nancy,
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
sorry.
well, we can ask them to do that. But Nancy, you wanted to,
I don't remember exactly helping Wright Tavern out that much on
Oh my
their
gosh, Nancy, you.
because in
We-
general, I think it's a bad idea to let applicants go back and fix their applications. And then you have to allow other people who hear the criticism of their application, you have to allow them to fix it. So I'm just,
Well, and Nancy, I respect that comment so much. I think if you, the one thing we did do was to try to help, well, that's an old history and we can go back and try to recreate that. But what I was going to say is that it seems to me that part of our role is to help people understand the nature before we make a final vote, to understand the nature of what is possible and not possible. Because people apply believing that what they're doing is authentic and appropriate. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes, you know, our role is to say, gosh, well, you know, actually not. As Matt would say, nope, it's painting. Let's not do this. Or we say, well, there are some concerns about the structure of the house. And if you can document those concerns, bring them back to us. I mean, they showed us pictures that would document it, but that doesn't mean that, as Eve said, there's actually wood rot in any place, and the need, and the, you know, the need to do that kind of repair. And I'm sorry, it is Andy Smith, not Rick Smith, and I apologize for that mistake. Okay.
oh yeah, no problem. I mean, if you think it's worthwhile to go back and ask Andy to apply his $20,000 application to some other form of historic preservation on the exterior of the building to rewrite his application,
No,
and there's
Oh, no,
precedence for
not-
that.
Not to rewrite its entirety, but to specify.
mm-mm.
Well, I mean, what's specified as painting? I'm just
Yeah.
gonna say that again.
I don't think you want to start doing that. I don't think
Yeah.
you really want to have
I
people,
agree.
that's
Which
not a
doesn't mean we
process.
don't love the Scout House. We
Right.
love, on the record, Dakota, we love the Scout House.
Oh,
Okay.
Dakota. Hello, Dakota. I didn't realize he was here.
Yeah, I forgot he was there.
Nancy, do
fine.
you have another comment about this?
No,
painting
no,
the
no,
Scout House?
I agree with Bill. That's, I think it's bad practice.
Okay, Jeff, painting the Scout House?
On the site visit, I think at least a couple of us encouraged Andy to you know be aware of how painting alone was handled, and he subsequently had the presentation, and we didn't hear much different.
That's right. I was gonna say the same thing. You're right.
You're
That's
right.
And I hate to argue with people that paint isn't important for preserving historical structures, because of course it's important.
Yeah.
But whatever, this is what we've been doing, so we have to be fair to the other applicants who came through and we told them no paint alone, I think. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so
Okay.
we'll put that in in a pile for probably not. Okay, the next one we've got, oh, if nobody minds, I would like to take the two archive applications together, because again, for me, I want to put these directly in the happy about it pile. The first one is the conservation and digitation of town records, and I think that was, wait,
36. 36,000, yeah.
is that, why is, oh, Nathan or Nathaniel? I can't remember his name. Oh my
Nate,
gosh.
Nate.
Thank you, Nate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other one was the Thoreau Surveys Preservation and Access Project. Do people want to take these separately and talk about them independently?
I
No,
don't see a need. I think they're fun. I think, you know, these are simple,
I
straightforward.
love these myself.
Yeah.
Does
Great.
everybody else love these too? Jeff, do you love
I
these?
love these. Again, the lawyer's memo mentioned this is kind of crazy, but this is what lawyers do. that some of the Thoreau surveys to be given a gold star somewhere? Do we need a letter from the Historic Commission or something to that effect?
So, yes, and thank you for reminding me that we need, the windows that need there to get, oh, actually, never mind, they got their letters in, but
Yeah,
if
they did.
anybody's letters are outstanding, they have a few more, I think they have one more week. And how much longer they have? They have until the 14th of November? It's like
It's
mid-November.
right till the 14th.
14th, is it?
Well,
Yes.
To get their letters in. So perhaps since we're busy just putting these things in piles anyway, maybe we'll take our giant vote all at once after the letters are in, and we won't have to make our vote contingent on getting letters in.
Well-
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I
most
think you're
people-
right. These two, I would think these two are we're pretty happy with them as far as I can see.
Okay, so then we'll put them in the happy pile
Yep.
and
with the storm windows.
I would have been able to go back to the Historical Commission and see about declaring these things historic, but our meeting's been canceled.
Oh, bummer.
So it'll be, but
But
I
we
don't
talked about it
think
at the
he-
last meeting, Nancy.
I'm sorry,
We talked about it at the last meeting,
and what did we say?
and
don't-
right, everyone agreed that they were historic and that the letter.
Okay, so
Yeah.
was that a sense of the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
So
No
Anne,
problem.
is it the Historic Commission that gives a letter of support for those two projects?
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a letter of support, it just needs to verify that the resources are historic.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, well, that's good. So then the last one in our historic preservation bucket is the Wright Tavern. And that one, we've got Burton, who's not here, and me, but I think Nancy has a lot to say about this. So I would like to hear Nancy's opinion on the Wright Tavern, or anyone else. Anyone else have an opinion too?
Yeah.
$250,000 for electrifying the Wright Tavern.
And let me just get my notes because I'm coming up faster than I thought. Just a minute.
Nancy and everybody, I'm on the board, so for just reasons of propriety, I don't have to because I checked, but I will just step off right now.
Okay, bye, Diane. Andrew, I know that Nancy has like something prepared for our meeting, but I would love to hear what you have to say too.
Sure, while she's getting ready.
Yeah.
So, in reading the application, this was one of the projects I felt paid a little bit of lip service to the idea of we've got to use buzzwords. So they're doing an electrical upgrade, and it's not an electrical upgrade so that the building doesn't burn down. They mentioned that, like fire risk, fire risk, fire risk, but they're doing a 200 to a 400 amp increase or whatever the numbers were, so that they can put in a bar and a brewery and all this stuff, and it may make the building more viable, but it's really just a project cost, and that's the way I looked at it. They want upgrades to their building and they want someone else to pay for it. I wasn't clear how that's historic preservation, in all honesty.
Okay, yeah.
So that's just
You
All
took-
right, thank you, Andrew. And I see that Nancy is ready. So Bill, if you don't mind, I'm going to let
No,
Nancy
please.
talk to us about all of this.
Andrew, you took some of my thunder.
Sorry.
I would first let all of us here know that there is a preservation restriction that the town of Concord, acting through the Historical Commission, has worked very hard to complete. And it is now at a point where I think town council has it and is maybe going through the final steps to finalize that. I think it's really important for that to be finalized after all these cycles, so that we have clear guidance about how to proceed in terms of reviewing. Another thing I would say is that, as Andrew said, there's two requests, basically a major electrical upgrade and rewiring, which anybody who's been down there knows something has to be done there. And the HVAC, heat and ventilation system, all that. And there are some safety code issues as well. But also there's quite a heavy emphasis on improving the visitor experience and comfort. And that would speak to the brewery and the refreshment operation and these fancy interactive electronically operated interpretive exhibits. So that's what's bothering me a little bit, how to separate just the preservation of the building and making it a viable economic force in the whole country, I think is the goal. The goal is transforming Wright Tavern into a world-class historical site. And I think some places refer to it as a museum, not really a museum. And important to note also, I think Town Council's memo referred to the grant request as covering antique furnishings and art and other things. That I'm sure is an error on their part, because this would not qualify for that. Let's see. A major thing that bothers me about this application is there's no clear indication of how the wiring would come from the basement or from the attic and manifest itself on the walls and the ceilings or other parts of the historic tavern. So there's no architectural plans that you could actually review. So I think the thing for us to think about is this really historic preservation? And I'm sure some of it is, but I don't know how to disaggregate it.
Right. Those were very, very good comments. And full disclosure, you had told me those to me earlier, and I said, my God, you have to tell the whole committee what you just told me. And I'm really glad that you did. Is this one of these applications that we could go back to Tom and ask him for more information, or exactly what of this is actually historic preservation and how much of it is creating a beer hall or whatever? What do you think?
I always feel a little uncomfortable working to get someone to reevaluate and resubmit their applications. It seems unfair to the other folks who have applied. So I just don't know if that's something we do.
I think it would work if we had specific questions, sort of like we've been firing specific questions to the school committee about the amenities building. If we had specific questions like, do you have an actual electric plan? I mean, I know how to read plans from electricians that show exactly what's going to happen. And I did go through the phasing, the contractor's estimates on all of this stuff. Personally, I don't understand why it has to be upgraded to the 400 amp. We have much larger houses that are still on 200 amp, and I'm just not convinced that lighting displays is going to require 400 amp service. But I'm not an electrician, so we could ask a very pointed question or two, and I think that would probably be appropriate. You're right. Asking them to reorganize the whole application over again is too much, probably, and not fair to other applicants, though. But there's some kind of fine line in there, and I'm not sure where we would cross it. Nancy, you still have your hand up. Is there
I'm
something?
sorry. I always forget to take my hand down.
Okay, well, it's like pink, the same color as your room, so I can understand.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, generic comment on the process. I was in the position of writing grant applications a lot of the time, and sort of you give it your best shot when you have one shot, right? And it's sort of up to the applicant to understand the objectives of the grantor and the restrictions on the funds, etc. So I think if there's one or two clarifying things, that's fair, but I don't think re-engaging with an applicant is, as Bill said, fair to the bulk of the applicants, and it's opens up to us investing a ton of time if we're going back in with each application. So I think that the service upgrade seems like a business model investment and not a historic preservation. I think it's the future of that building in 50 years and 100 years does not depend on 400 amp service. So that one for me is not like the others. HVAC for comfort, that one I guess is a little bit on the line. I mean, upgrading that spider's web of electrical service and having an assessment, that seems smart. To your question, Eve, I see the first line, $15,000 for mechanical and electrical assessment and plan. So I think we're at the pre-plan phase at this point. And then, sorry, I'm going to keep coming out with your questions, but here's another one. When we have a contingency in a budget, $30,000 here, or the $40,000 discussion that we had earlier for ComAv, do we check back on whether that contingency was spent, or CPC should is entitled to a small rebate if the contingency isn't burned up?
By contingency, you mean that once we sign a grant agreement and we specify the certain amount of money has to be spent over 30 months, we can ask them for an extension request, which Anne wrote up a brand new extension request form, asking them to explain why they haven't spent their money over the 30 months and do they want more time? Or if they haven't spent all of the money and it looks like they're done, then we can request a refund. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, with a $250,000 budget, there's 30,000 in contingency. So when putting
Right.
together a budget, you'd say, I don't think we need that money, but I'd love if we could have it just in case. So do we have that conversation at the back end, or does the recipient say, well, we've got 250 grand, we can spend all that money?
They are supposed to be submitting reports to Anne, updating what they have spent and what they have done with the money so far and what percentage is complete. And feel free to step in here and take over this discussion, because you're really the person who receives those updates and you know what people are reporting.
Right. Well, they also provide, before they hire a contractor, they need to provide the contract documents, which are reviewed by staff and by the treasurer. And then we also review any invoices and change orders. So we're reviewing the project all along. And so we would know if it's contingency in some sort of change order or not. If that
And you'd know if
helps.
contingency wasn't spent or the budget came in under budget, that would
Right.
be refunded.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe we put the Right Tavern in the pile to table and put a pin on and discuss again later? Or does anybody have a clear sense of a direction to take on this before we put it in a pile?
I don't have it in front of me now. Is the HVAC system, is there an amount of money on that separate from the forfeit from the increase in amperage?
It's like $100.
yeah.
100,000?
120.
120.
Yeah, thank you.
To me, that's something which, as an alternative would be something I could see us funding, but I'm not saying we should make that decision now. That's the only other comment I would have.
Yeah, that didn't strike me as historic preservation either, I guess, I looked at the historic preservation as limited to really like keeping the building safe and functional.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're saying it'd be really more comfortable if we had a better system in place, doesn't feel like a historic preservation. If they don't have anything functional because the whole system's fallen apart, but they said, hey, here's the heater. We were standing in the basement when the thing went on. I mean, it's clearly working. It might sound like freight train, but I don't know. And so it seems to me like, yeah, that's just my thought.
Okay.
Yeah, I would probably review our discussion on Concord Player, because the Concord Players was about air conditioning and painting as well. And so there's a precedent that I'm going to go back and review that so I can be better informed about that too. But Ed, do you have a comment?
Just maybe could ask them to remove the brewery concept. I know they're anxious to be able to. I mean, maybe it has something to do with licensing. If you have a brewery on site, you're allowed to do more kind of marketing or making it into almost like a bar. But I just think that just doesn't seem to be part of the history of the place. So.
Well, the bar was an anecdotal information at the site visit. The application is actually for electrical upgrades and HVAC upgrades. Not, it doesn't say anything about it putting a bar in on the application.
But isn't that one of the reasons they need the additional ampage?
Well, yeah, they were arguing in Tom was arguing on the site visit that the electrician suggested that he move to 400, and I know lots of electricians who suggest that you move to 400, but I would really like to know why, because that's an expensive upgrade. If he's going to plug in a bunch of EV chargers, I would definitely say go to 400. If he's operating solar panels on the roof, go to 400. But lighting fixtures and air conditioning for the whole building, the building's not much bigger than a large house, Anyway, that's my opinion based on my experience as an architect, not as I'm not an electrician or an HVAC consultant myself, obviously. Anyway, Nancy?
So we're in the same dilemma of trying to help them recraft their application.
Well, I just want to, if we can come up with some pointed questions or sort of like, can you back up this upgrade service from 200 amp to 400 amp with, something other than just listing that's what's happening, that, it's just listed what's happening on here. There's no really reason why, or that's just one thing. If we could get if we can ask some pointed questions of Tom, I would think that would be appropriate, but I don't know that we want to ask him to come back and redo a whole application this round for this amount of money.
I would wonder if the most appropriate thing would be to actually identify what the board would support as a historical preservation project and ask them to say, okay, well, how much of this number that you outlined here is actually that? Because they're talking, they're bring wiring up to code number, which is the one that sort of feels the most like fire prone, talks about light fixtures. And I can't imagine that the second floor light fixtures are going to be historic. So why would that be part of the application that the CPC would pay for? And it may be like they kind of have to be way more granular of what they're paying, what's actually being included in these categories that they've already outlined. So basically more specificity to what you've already broken out may be a solution, so that they're actually just being asked clarifying questions, but they're not rewriting it. They really are just clarifying what they've already provided.
Yeah, okay. Jeff?
Yeah, just briefly, my understanding from the site visit is that the increased electrical service is not necessary for the brewery operation they envision, sort of a nano brewery. That's sort of an extension cord operation more than a 400 amp service.
Right. Yeah, I don't really know why we were talking about a brewery, only that's his bigger vision of the whole trajectory of where this building is going. And it was nice to talk about, but it wasn't really directly applicable to what he was asking us for, I suppose. Bill?
I liked what Andrew had said, and this is what I've been thinking too. I didn't go to the site visit, but your description reminds me that it tells me that it's a quagmire of different types of wiring in the place, right? There's a knob and tube probably, and so I could see, wanting to bring it up to code in terms of the basic electrical service, and that's something which I think, I certainly would support going forward, and that we could ask them how much that would cost, or pull that out.
Yeah, it's a good idea, Ed, to offer to fund a portion, either the mechanical or the electrical. Or
that seems like a basic. You don't want the place burning down, so that seems like a basic.
That's easy.
Yeah.
What do you think, Nancy?
That's easy. I think asking those kinds of questions, I think, is perfectly legitimate. I would say that there's a very powerful vision for the future of this little tiny house structure, and overcoming or paring back that vision is going to be hard. But it doesn't mean, there's other ways for them to pursue those aspects of their vision, not CPC with preservation.
True. And I feel like I know that we've had several applications for Wright Tavern over the years, and the
Yeah.
only one I'm really aware of is the structural run.
Yeah.
But man, was that necessary. Holy crow. And I'm really glad that that steel has CPC stamped in the corner of it, even though it's not preservationist looking right now. It's certainly holding up the building.
I wish you had been around for the conversations between the retired NPS historical architect and the engineers.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and that I'll tell you another time, but
Okay. All right. So maybe Nancy and I can noodle through a couple of direct questions for Tom, or maybe we'll have more clarity after we talk about other applications. I'm putting it in the maybe pile for now. Where did my maybe pile go? Okay.
okay.
All right. Well, that was a very good discussion. Diane, are you in your house? Can you you can come back now if you're still around. Or I don't know if we
Here.
need to email her.
I'll send her a note.
Okay, great. So I can share my screen. I have some noodling that to discuss with everybody if people would be interested. Let me see if I can do this. Oh, I have to send a request. Okay. All right. Here is my spreadsheet where I'm fussing with things. And this is just me thinking. It's not, obviously I haven't been discussing this with other people, so I don't know what you all think. But I wanted to start, here's the funding that we talked about before, the reserves from last year, the open space reserves, the historical preservation reserves, the possible intake for this year. And by the way, when we talk about 10% for each of our three categories, we're talking about 10% of that intake from the year, not 10% of the reserves that we've had in our bank. So 10% of 1.8 million is 180,000, of course. And I just wrote down that 25% is 450. Here is this, going back to the beginning of our meeting, what we were talking about with Delia. If we get funds returned from application number 619, and if we vote to approve her extension request, what's left over is $232,000. If we request a refund for the overdue amount of application 920 for dredging, that's $250. We also have one of her applications left over from a long time ago, which involved invasives remediation in Hayward Field. And of that, we have $4,000 left over. Adding those up, we could get back $486,000 from these applications from NRC. And it makes sense to me to roll that directly into the conservation fund that she requested. If we decided to vote no on her extension request on the boating dock, or if we voted for just the 220 instead of the 264, we would be able to give her full $500,000 request for a conservation fund and have some remainder left over. Does that make sense to everybody? That little chart that I made?
Do you know if we could move the money around like that?
I believe that we can, yes.
Really? Wow.
Yes. Ann and I have been talking about this until we both want to poke our eye out. Yes, Andrew?
I mean, the math makes sense. It's just, I don't necessarily like the plan, but I guess that's something we can talk about.
Yeah. Well, do you remember were you there for her conservation fund application?
I was there for her very short presentation about wanting money. Yes.
It's, the conservation fund is sort of like we could talk about it when we talk about the rest of the open space and recreation. And when we should, and we will. And is Diane here yet?
I'm
Diane,
finally, I'm sorry, I somehow froze, so I'm now
okay.
back.
Diane's back. That's good.
Eve, I have a question.
Sure.
I'm looking at the email that Ann had sent out, and maybe I'm misreading it, but her first line where you had the refund of 232,478, Ann has 232,978.
Oh, maybe that's a typo for me. Ann is absolutely Ann is going to be correct on this. So take Ann's number, not mine.
Okay. All right.
It
It doesn't add that much more, but it adds a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had thought that the original amount minus what she's already spent was 496, 478, and I was subtracting this is the way spreadsheets work, Diane. I'm subtracting 264 up here at the top. And oh, now I'm messing up my own spreadsheet. And the end result was this, but anyway, Mercy and I will fix my numbers later. Okay, Bill?
Okay, that's fine. That's
All
fine.
right. So
Yeah.
anyway, but this is what we were talking about, dredging money coming back. And I'm
Yeah.
well aware that there is a third dredging or NRC application out there, but it
Right.
is not overdue. So my feeling is we need to leave that alone until it is overdue.
I agree. Personally.
So given that it is
You know,
possible,
but we could ask, but we could ask.
She could give it
Delia,
back.
she
We
could
could
give
ask
it back.
Delia to give it back. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really
mean, we
know
could
how to
say,
make that happen though.
I mean, it doesn't have to be overdue for her to return it to us, which
But I
might
don't-
be a way to execute
So-
reciprocity bill. No, really, that can happen.
But we're just about to start a committee.
But
It's going to need money for this new. That's exactly what the money was proposed for, was for the Warner's Pond, maintenance, and that's 170,000. That's what they're hoping to use. That's one thing, and the second thing is for the not included here is for the Commonwealth Avenue improvements for access to the pond. So I
am not really comfortable asking for money back from an application that is not yet overdue. I would end up voting against that because I feel like we give them the 30 months and they have the 30 months to make the project happen. We don't even ask for an extension request until the 30 months is up. So
to be clear, I'm not actually suggesting we do anything, but she could. It is an option if she knows that money's not going to be used for the purpose it was intended, as anyone who has an outstanding project is more than welcome to do at any time. That's
well, Andrew, because
all I
I'm
mean.
directly involved in this.
No, and I understand.
It will be
I'm
used. It will be used for those purposes. One is clearly for the Commonwealth Avenue site, and one is clearly to do some work at the pond for remediation. That's as clear as it can be.
And do you want to try to shed some light on this?
Right. I just wanted to remind everyone that third grant that is still active and is not overdue, that was not for dredging. That was for Warner's Pond restoration. So it was a broader definition. So I'm just backing what Bill Kameza is saying.
Yeah, and I'm not comfortable asking her to make the decision to go to her committee and ask for return some of that money all in her own initiative too. I don't think that's great. But anyway, Jeff?
Sorry, Eve, that's your last statement. That's referring to FY24 grant?
Yeah. You know what? I have it somewhere around here. I can get you the exact number of that, but it's actually listed on the website under it's over here under funding applications past and present. And it's also on Ann's chart.
But I'm looking at.
Well, we can find it, but yeah, I think it's FY24.
So the 0920 or number 920, we're expecting that to come back. Am I right?
That is overdue and we can request that to come back. Yeah, we can be refunded that. She did not ask for an extension request on the $250,000 dredging money.
So that was straight dredging and
the other one was dredging also, but there's also a boat launch repair project in there.
in
The money you're looking at, right? That amount of money, I know Natural Resources has discussed it. Some members of the Warner's Pond Task Force had discussed it. Everyone's expecting this to be returned. I know Delia feels the same way. So that's a huge amount of money. And there's no question about that, right?
Diane?
I would just like to say that Bill, in the same way that I recused myself from the Right Tavern discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there are moments when we have to stand back a little bit and look at the overall, nature of the requests and everything else. I mean, I think that the 19 refund dredging, $496,000, if that's an accurate figure, and I think it is, Eve, and the 21, $250,000, again, if those are accurate, that kind of money should come back now because they're actually over which
Oh,
came
boy,
up
Diane.
recently, that money, we wouldn't ask her to return any of those funds. Those resources can be used in any way she wishes. And if those include, working with the NRC to try to find ways to make docks appropriate and other boating sites appropriate, that's fantastic. But I think the
Diane,
first,
we're not arguing. We're saying the
oh,
same
good.
thing.
Oh, good. All right.
It's the same
Fantastic.
thing. Take that money. There's other monies that's not on that sheet that is
Yeah.
already, it's been appropriated and is still sitting out there. That's all.
Thank you. That's
That
about
money you see
700
there,
that's about, yeah. And the reason I mention this, Bill, is just because we're talking about about $700,000, and we're looking at a request from Delia to begin, I'm anticipating something coming up, to anticipate a kind of an effort to try to build a fund to help to support certain things that she'd like to have go forward. So in the presence of that extra money, that gives us an opportunity to address the concerns that she has in a more fiscally responsible way, I think. I may be misunderstanding, but I think so.
Okay. And again, this is just a scenario that I invented. It's not what we're voting on or really discussing.
Oh,
so
no, I
much.
wasn't suggesting that. I was just, so I'll be quiet.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the recreation applications quite yet. Jeff?
Yeah, so I've pulled up the past application. I'm sorry I wasn't remembering this as we wrote, but the third application, the FY24, the summary says, this Warner's Pond restoration project seeks to improve the ecological health and recreational opportunities at Warner's Pond through a limited dredging operation and to improve the boat launch access to better serve public access to the pond. So to Diana's point that Delia can use the money however she wants, that's not how we operate, right? We give money to fund requests, and that one is, again, specifically in the application, I think different from the summary table. It's for dredging and the boat improvement. So we kind of have two pots that are sort of allocated for ComAv boat improvements, the portion of the FY19 that Delia is asking you to retain, and there's this already allocated money in hand for boat enhancements. And all three contemplated dredging, which Delia says in her letter will not be happening. And that was the conclusion of the Warner's Pond Task Force and the recommendation. So
That's exactly what I'm saying, actually. I'm sorry if I spoke that she could just go out and have a party. I mean, yeah, I think she has some flexibility within that application. I could be wrong. I'll go back and look at it again. Okay.
Anne? I think Anne's going to answer your question, Jeff.
so do I.
Yes, sorry. So that third application was submitted. So what is posted is the application that was submitted. And Delia came back to the committee many times after that over the course of many months and provided updates, written updates as to what the money would be used for. That initial application was in order to meet the deadline, but the project scope was still well, that was just shortly after. I shouldn't be explaining this. I should have her explain it. That was shortly after the very large bids came in, and she had to basically shift gears completely. And so the project scope changed, and it was changed from that dredging and boat launch improvement that you see in the application to something much more general, which was restoration. And she used those funds to bring together or to hire the consultants to work with the Warner's Pond Task Force. And I believe those funds are still being used to work with the new Warner's Pond group to further the goals for that body of water, whatever happens in the future. So it's not limited to dredging and boat launch improvements.
And
so
can I ask a quick question?
Those supplementary documents up on the website too, so that you have access to that.
And all the money I see on Eve's spreadsheet is everyone agrees that should be returned, and that does not affect. I mean, I'd say everyone. Natural Resources Commission has looked. They see it. The task force had known this was coming back.
Right.
Delia knows it's coming back.
Yes.
So I don't I don't see what the discussion is about. This is all being returned. It's over 500 or close to $500,000.
No, I agree. So maybe I misunderstood Jeff's
No, I-
question. So right, what is on Eve's sheet right here, the two projects, 619 and 920, yes, that's completely accurate. It's that third one that came up a few times tonight, which is, it's not at the 30-month period, and it is a broader project that isn't necessarily a project that's described in the application, because there was a supplementary update
Right.
that should be posted on the website too. I'm sorry if I'm
Diane,
confusing things.
I know, it's a lot.
Okay.
Never had my computer freeze before, but apparently it has been. Jeff, I wasn't saying they could go out and have a party, but what I meant was that there is some discretionary money based on what the application reflected that Delia may now use. That's all I meant. So I didn't mean to suggest kind of wanton distribution of resources. And so thank you for your very thoughtful comment.
I might also add that there might be a time where that third application is overdue. And at that time, we might ask Delia to for either an extension request form submittal or to refund some of that money at that time. But that's not today. That would be probably next year
Right.
for that. So anyway, so up here we have, these are all applications that came in. I've crossed out the two ones here that were withdrawn. And this was the original amount that was requested from all of those applications. And since then, this is scenario one, which is kind of where we are today. If we decided to roll some of that money coming back into the conservation fund requested by Delia on her application, this would kind of zero out more or less. And then this is where we would be. We're still, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Hold on. We're still way over, we're $1 million, well, almost $1 million over what we have, or what we think we have, depending on what the intake is from this year, if we fund everything. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, yeah. So I could go through this again. So
I
column,
actually probably need to see it printed.
okay, I can do that for you, Nancy. This original column was September 19th, right? And then here we are today on November 3rd, November 4th.
Oh,
My
okay.
goodness, what day is it? This is November 4th, with two of the applications having been withdrawn and possibly recycling conservation money into conservation again. What I just pointed at down at the bottom of my chart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah,
I want to make sure everyone's with me.
I got you. You're saying.
Nancy, are you with me?
Sort of.
Yeah, okay, so here's that possibly recycling money to NRC, from NRC to NRC again, possibly, which we haven't voted on yet.
No.
But there are a couple different ways that could go down. And if it did, then application quest number 4 would kind of go away because it would zero out. Because money we would be getting in would be money going out to her conservation fund, possibly, as one way to do it. Okay, all right, so another way we could handle this to get that $1 million down is to partially fund a couple of our applicants here. And this is one thought. If we decide that the Scout House is not happening because paint is maintenance, and if we, fuss with some of these, this is what we have to discuss next time, partially fund the amenities building, partially funds maybe Thoreau Farm, maybe talk about whether the Concord Art Garden should come back as a different format, maybe reduce housing back to last year's requested amount, then we're within our budget here. That's one way we could do it. Another way we could do it is, can I move this over, please? Here we go. I'm gonna make this bigger. Sorry, my tiny screen here. Okay, another way we could do this, option 3, is to not fund the amenities building all that much, and zero out the Scout House. And then we're within our budget as well. So I'm just saying that this is why I wanted to start with the historical applications, because nowhere here have I really fussed with too many of these applications, and I've made these come out just by noodling all by myself without talking to you guys. Okay? That's our big picture. This is maybe where we might be heading. And at our next meeting, we're going to discuss these categories more thoroughly and talk about what makes sense to do here. Does that make, oh my gosh, I already screwed everything up here. Anyway, maybe that's enough show and tell for today. I'm happy to share this chart. And everybody else knows how to use Excel, and they can fuss with it on their own and come up with their own scenarios if they want. People know how to use Google Sheet. I can send it to you in Google Sheet. Diane, you and I can sit next to each other and go through the Excel chart together.
Thank you very much, Eve.
But Bill, do you have any questions about the
Just
big
I really
picture?
liked what you did. I did a similar thing, and I'm really pleased by what you've done. I can see where you're headed in all that. That makes excellent sense. Here's the question I have for you. Have we heard anything about the sewage connection on the amenities building?
Yes, we got, and didn't we send out the responses to that? Oh, yes, Diane, did you want to say about the sewage connect? We did hear about it.
I think, I mean, from my most recent understanding, Bill, is that the Department of Public Works continues to say that they asked 4 questions last spring, and those questions have yet to be addressed, and that when those questions are addressed, they can then begin to figure some things out. So I kept asking whether they had the approval of the Public Works Department for a reason. The reason I asked those questions is not to be negative about the project, but to suggest that there are some very clear pieces of information that are necessary before we can actually agree to fund this. We don't want to build a building that cannot be connected to the sewage system. So I think that, my deepest hope is that the people promoting this particular project can speak directly with the Public Works people and begin to get some clarification that will help all of us to move forward with confidence.
Wow.
Okay, for my part, I'm going to add a column to my chart after today, and I'm going to put in it, from what I heard from Over the Couch, TM 2609, which was the survey, is in the maybe category. Number 10, the library storm windows is in the probably category. Scout House is the probably not category. The 2 archives are in the probably yes category, and the Right Tavern needs to be in the maybe category. So I'm going to add those to my chart so that when the day comes that we have to actually vote on these, we can remember what we thought and have more discussions on the maybes, maybe. Does that make sense? And then, so next meeting, we can talk about the 5 or 4, oh my gosh, the 6 horrors, the 6 recreation and open space applications, and go through those similarly to the way we did these. And then last, we'll tackle the 2 housing. I wonder if it would be all right, since we have a tiny bit of time, to discuss the final application for staffing for $50,000. This is one that usually just comes through really quick. But before we do that, maybe I'll see what Ed and Bill want to talk about. Ed?
Yeah, following on what Diane said about the sewer connection, don't you think we need to have some kind of timeline where they have to have an answer? We have to have an answer before we can, create the warrant item. So, maybe in December or something like that. I mean, that's pushing the Public Works people to either say yes or no, or put it off again. And so they would have to, come back to us.
Just for clarification, Ed, it's not perfect pushing the Public Works people, it's pushing the schools.
Well,
to
true,
to connect with the Public Works. I mean, that's not to vilify either, but it's just to suggest. Thank you.
And I look forward to our conversation about the amenities building at our next meeting. All right.
I'll be there. No, I'm just teasing.
Paul, do you want to talk about staffing, Paul? Or do you want to talk about the amenities building, Paul?
I thought you were done. I like comments at the end before you close. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to put the application for staffing in the maybe yes category because it's on its own? Everybody raise their hand. They say yes. Okay. I'm
Yes.
putting it. I'm putting it in the, maybe yes category. All right. Oh, Jeff, yes.
Yeah, sorry, different
Do you know what I
topic
just did?
for a general question. The general question, Eve, is as we get to the next category, conservation, open space and recreation. Can anybody give me a little history of why those two categories are lumped in that way? Aren't there for purposes of the conservation, the CPA, and how have we thought about these together, and why are they not separate? I understand many things, as you know, being a town meeting, et cetera, many projects sort of tick both boxes and are defined as conservation and recreation, and there's either a 50-50 split or some discussion of what percentage is conservation or recreation. But anyways, how has that been handled?
In my simple mind, the open space is the actual category, and recreation is a subset of open space. But for other accounting purposes, we need to talk about 4 categories. And do you have any more to say about that? I know you know, and actually Paul knows a lot about this too, but and would you like to clarify the difference between open space and recreation and the 2 different ways we account these things?
So you're right, Eve. There are really 3 categories that when the CPA was first created, there were the 3 categories. And so for each year, you know, you're required to put 10% of the new revenues into each of the 3 categories. And recreation is really a subset of open space. But then more recently, it was 2012 or something, they separated off recreation because there are so many urban communities that really didn't have open space to preserve. So that was sort of created for these urban communities.
Oh, I never knew that.
And when so the act was actually signed at my former workplace, and I was there, and they described it as you know, one of the most important environmental legislative acts in many decades. So it was really seen as an environmental act, but that has since shifted because of these recreation funds. And so we've, since I've been here, just for simplification, I have sort of lumped together open space and recreation, just because when the town does when it does create accounts for the different funds, sometimes it breaks up each project into open space and recreation, and rather than pull the actual project apart, it's just easier to show it together. If you had to look at all of the all of the accounts that I have to look at, you'd just go bonkers. But so it's just really just to make it simple so that we can all understand what's what.
When we have a budgeted reserve for open space, it could go for open space or recreation, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Jeff, or do you have more?
It doesn't. It begins to answer my question. I may have more, and I'll do some more research. I mean, my ultimate concern is if they are separate buckets, but we account for them the same in our recreation, but I'm honestly not seeing one.
So, Jeff, we're not hearing any of that because you're breaking up.
Funds.
I think you're having a Wi-Fi problem, Jeff. And if you want to repeat your question, you're more than welcome. But until your Wi-Fi comes back, we're going to go to Bill.
Well, my question.
There he is.
Oh, there you are, Jeff. Sorry.
I'm picking up what Jeff said. I'll be very quick. I really think they ought to be separate. Open space is very different. Recreation has come along. There's a lot of important things, and we ought to see how much is being spent in recreational facilities. That'd be great. And open space too. And surely there's going to be time when they're both aligned. There'll be time when we have a double look at open space and historic. But I think it's really important to separate them out. And interestingly, when we revised our document last year, it very clearly has each of the 4 categories.
Yeah.
And it separates them out. So we ought to
Yeah.
have that in our financials too, so we can see how much is being spent in either area. I think
Well,
it's really
my
essential.
understanding is that there's a back of the house accounting that has 3 categories
That's
and a
right.
front of the house accounting that has 4 categories. And
Absolutely.
we do
But-
call it out, but there are a couple of applications that would apply to either or both. And
That's true of
those
other
that-
areas though, Eve. That's true for historic and other things. I don't think we should be ruled by a back of the house accounting problem. In this case, where it's really important to see how much money is being spent in these 2 areas, and where we're conscious of how much money is being spent in open space and how much is being spent in recreation. I think
Yes,
that's essential.
And you're right. I believe that in the past, there have been a couple of applications that were very tricky to pull apart into one or the
Sure.
2 categories. And that causes brain cells to explode in our staffing, who are trying, to make the counts come out correctly. And you
Well,
can't
it-
necessarily do half and half, and you can't do 2/3, 1/3. And so for that reason, we end up with 4 categories with various bits in different buckets, and it's
Well, here's the problem. It explodes my head to think that putting in basketball courts or tennis courts is open space.
Open
That's
space.
true.
Clearly is not. Or an amenities
true.
building is not open space.
Exactly.
I mean,
So
honestly,
we have to separate these things out.
it might be a
ridiculous
year by
to
year
think.
thing where in some cases, some things are obviously open space and obviously recreation. But I was on the committee a couple years ago when there was an application that was difficult to figure out. And I saw the brain meltdown happen in the staffing, trying to figure out how to account for that.
I would bet that there's more of the opposite coming
Yeah, I
forward.
think you're right.
So I
Ann,
think we ought to
can you
separate
back
them
me up, Ann? Wasn't there a problem a while ago?
I'm not sure what you're referring to on that, but
Not important.
but actually when we report to the state, we report to the state once a year, and they've told us that they don't want communities to arbitrarily split up
Absolutely.
projects into open space and recreation. They prefer that we choose one or the other. And so when I report to the state, I choose, if it's like Bruce Fruman Rail Trail, I choose recreation. But if it's natural resources, I choose natural resources. And
So, but
the state
Ann,
would
you're,
actually prefer us to do that.
you're
But
proving
I've
my
also been
point.
told that politically that would never happen with the town of Concord, and that and so when applications come in, the applicant checks off the box whether it's open space or recreation or both, even though both isn't really supposed to be what we're doing. So the town of Concord has split it up among the different categories to show that it's, politically, to show that it's distributing funds into both categories. So
Thank you, Ann.
it's a political decision more than anything, because it would make my life a heck of a lot easier if it were separated into the 2 categories, if each project had just one category and not multiple categories.
No, I love it, Ann. And we can call it open space and recreation. We just put a slash there. And the thing is that it has the thing that governs us is the 10%, 10%, 10%. And so, I mean, once that has been acknowledged, then whether we divide them between open space and recreation for our clarity of judgment, I mean, that they come into one pot and we have to cover 10% of our budget going to the conglomerate use. So, I mean, I think that makes sense. And while it may be frustrating for Ann, it may be difficult for her to decide where to put it. I think it couldn't be more, I mean, I love the fact that we look at both. I love the fact that we reflect both and embrace both. But on the other hand, I think the thing that governs us is the 10% bill. I think that's my sensibility.
Okay, before we get too lost, I want to circle back to Jeff because you had some technical difficulties and I want to make sure that whatever it was you were saying gets said.
Thanks. I think Bill put all my points better than I could, but not to jump in front of Ed, but on that question of 10%, to clarify for me, are there 3 buckets in state law or 4 buckets?
There are 3.
3. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
3 buckets.
Yeah, Ed.
Your question about a problem we had, a while ago about the differentiating between recreation and open space. I think it might have been the Thoreau School last year where they separated what they were going to get from us to be, on the outskirts where it was not, which is down to the river, and so forth, so that the money they were getting from us was actually really connected to open space, even though it was a recreation, project. So.
That could have been.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, you
is,
have a
there
better
was
memory
also
than
the Assabet River Bluff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to think of it as indoors or outdoors. Okay, if nobody else has any comments on our overview of funding or anything else to say about the historic preservation applications, I'm going to move to public comment, which I know that Paul has been holding onto his pants this whole time, ready to talk to us about something. Paul, what have you got?
Well, I speak to you as your acting select board liaison, substituting for Mary tonight, and former CPC. And I'm certainly not going to get into the open space versus recreation discussion because I've spent.
It would be so much fun.
I've wasted too many brain hours over the past couple of years. I just said, don't worry about it. You got applications in both, and we'll package them up and send them in. I just want to say, when this process started, I've been wondering how you're going to shoehorn $5 million of projects into 3.4 million. I think you're making really good progress on that. I'm very impressed. It's a start. So, and I think that just the quality of discussion was really excellent. You're not done yet. I will just one observation without judgment on the NRC land use. Remember that what Delia talked about was the start of a process. So whatever you do is not just a one year. You're setting something up for additional funding in previous. So I know you discussed that, but I think you've handled the possibilities brilliantly, even your spreadsheet. So I think you can accomplish what the CPC aims to do with the money you have. It's not going to be easy. So whether I'm a select board liaison substitute or just an observer, I'll be sitting in and watching you. Thanks.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
And
It's
not
like a
not critiquing you.
Okay, thanks, Paul. And Paul, thank you very much for not talking about the difference between open space and recreation, because I know you know the difference.
And a critique is absolutely appropriate. That's your role.
That's right.
It's cruel and unusual punishment to talk about it more.
Okay, well, I'm just super happy that it's not quite 9 o'clock, so I'm not a pumpkin yet. I would love to hear if Linda has anything to add to our conversation.
Thank you. I agree with Paul. It's the quality of the conversation is very good. The question I have is, do we know what the match is from the state yet? Are we waiting to hear from that around November 14th? Isn't that what I heard?
Yes, we're waiting. We're still waiting to hear. We don't have the match from the state yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be whatever meeting we have next, we'll have that. And so right now, the last thing we have to do is decide when our next meeting is. Right now we have on the calendar November 25th, which is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And we also have a meeting, I believe, the next week set up for December. Oh my goodness, come back here. Okay, the 25th, and then the 2nd. Is it December 2nd or December 9th?
January.
Sorry. I have
It's
it.
December 9th. No, it's December
9th.
2nd.
December 2nd, okay.
No, December 2nd. Yeah. So November 25th and December
Okay.
2nd.
December 2nd. So those are week apart. Do people want to meet both of those weeks? Do we want to meet on November 25th? There's a possibility I will have to be at the Lincoln Planning Department that night, but I'm sure Diane can handle the entire recreation and open space without me. And I'm not sure I have to be at Lincoln Planning yet, but I probably do, but we'll see. But definitely December 2nd, I'm around. What do people feel like about November 25th? Raise your hand if you want to meet on November 25th. Okay, that's a majority. We'll meet on November 25th. Very well, then I will see you all 2 days before Thanksgiving. And we'll try to, we'll definitely probably, I think we're going to be rolling all of that discussion over the 2 weeks. I can't imagine that we're going to finish all of that in 1 2-hour session. So there'll be plenty to talk about. But thank you all for coming. I appreciate it.